7 candidates were on that NBCLA debate stage May 7th. The certified November bracket has 2. So what does a top 2 survivor owe voters who didn't pick them?
This is the California governor's race, and today we're following the money into the general. CA Gov Tracker is logging Cal Access filings nightly now. The first IE dollar to move tells us more than any endorsement parade.
Plus, a clean walkthrough of what the jungle primary actually does, and why a 2-name ballot was baked in from the jump. Let's get into it. Here's CA Gov Tracker.
CA Gov Tracker is a public interest dashboard for the 2026 California gubernatorial race. We pull primary source campaign finance filings from California's Cal Access database, surface independent expenditure spending, and aggregate public polling, so you can see how money and momentum are moving in the race.
In today's rundown, I want to name the tool precisely, not overread the output. CA Gov Tracker pulls straight from Cal Access and updates nightly with Secretary of State filings, the same sourcing pipe that surfaced the $50.8 million anti-Steyer number last week.
Nightly Cal Access pulls. Sarah, that's the gear change. We spent 3 days refusing to crown anybody, and now there's an independent expenditure feed logging the general in real time. I.e., money will move before the pundits say it should. That's the tell I want to watch.
And remember, we're talking about a dashboard here. Donors, polling averages, top donors across the race, the whole bracket of pages. The discipline is treating any one line on it as a signal, not the headline.
Right, but here's the open ledger nobody's filed. The May debate had 7 people on stage, 2 advanced. Where do Mahan's and Villaraigosa's donor networks land in November? The tracker logs it the night it moves. We can check that now instead of guessing. California puts everybody in the governor's race, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, on the same ballot. What is that system actually doing, and why does it matter so much heading into November?
Right. California uses a top 2 primary, sometimes nicknamed the jungle primary, where every candidate, regardless of party, runs on a single ballot in June. Then, only the top 2 vote-getters advance to November, no matter what party they belong to. Voters approved this system to encourage moderation. The idea was that candidates would have to appeal beyond their base when the whole electorate is voting. What made this governor's race so unusual is that early polls raised a real possibility of 2 Republicans advancing in a state that leans heavily Democratic, which would have been historic. Per KQED, that prospect spooked Democratic Party leaders, even as Republicans were encouraged by it. In the end, per Cal Matters, a Democrat and a Republican did advance, making it a more conventional partisan matchup. But the drama forced Democratic candidates to take the threat seriously and campaign more broadly than they might have otherwise. The system also changes how Republicans run. In a state where they're outnumbered on registration, top 2 actually gives them a path to the general election that a traditional party primary might not, because they're competing in a larger, more open pool rather than being filtered out before November ever arrives.
So if the system was designed to produce more moderate candidates, and we're still landing on a standard Democrat versus Republican race, did it actually deliver?
That's the fight right now. Cal Matters reports that, in most races, top 2 still ends in a conventional partisan matchup, which is why some critics say the reform flopped. A Democratic consultant has even proposed a ballot measure called Undo the Top 2 to scrap the system entirely. So watch whether that measure gets traction, and whether this governor's race, likely Democrat versus Republican in November, helps keep the system alive or gives opponents more ammunition. Here's NBCLA.
The 7 leading candidates in the California governor's race faced off in their final debate before the primary election on June 2nd. They've made their cases, and now it's up for the voters to decide who will succeed Governor Gavin Newsom.
Hold the May 7th debate roster up against the certified rundown. 7 names on that NBCLA stage: Becerra, Bianco, Hilton, Mahan, Porter, Steyer, Villaraigosa. Only 2 are still standing in November.
5 Democrats, 2 Republicans on one stage. And the top 2 system we just walked through is why it shook out that way. Instead of separate party lanes, everyone had to survive the same ballot.
And it's a good before and after for Hilton specifically. In May, he had to show up in San Jose for a California broadcast audience. Compare that with where he chose to talk first.
Here's the part I want logged. Mahan and Villaraigosa both had real money and measurable support on that stage. Their donor networks didn't disappear on June 2nd. Where that cash lands in November is still an open ledger, and with the tracker pulling Cal Access nightly, we can see it when it hits.
Homelessness and immigration were the 2 fault lines that night, per NBCLA. Same 2 fault lines that'll define November. The debate only went so far. After that, the system did the sorting. From ABC 10.
This June, Californians will head to the polls to help decide who could become the state's next governor. Well, the final decision comes in November. For now, 7 Democratic hopefuls and 2 Republicans are leading the race. And to help you get to know them just a little bit better and what they say they would bring to the job, I sat down with the candidates at their state conventions.
The ABC 10 Forum is a time capsule, posted April 15th, 9 candidates, 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans, all sitting for random draw interviews. Hold that roster up against the certified bracket, and you can watch the top 2 machine at work.
9 down to 2. And the names that didn't make the cut: Mahan, Villaraigosa, Thurmond, Yee. They aren't zeros. They had support. They had donor networks. And nobody's filed yet where that money lands in November.
Listen to how Hilton opens, too. Moved from England in 2012, taught at Stanford, lived the California dream. That's a candidate introducing himself to a general election audience. Compare that with where he chose to do press in May.
Right. Talking to a California broadcast crew in April instead of London. The man found Fresno once the bracket got real.
If you're following the California governor's race, you might also like San Francisco politics and urbanism daily. City Hall, Muni, housing abundance, public safety, schools, and small business permitting. Find it wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll put links to every story we covered today in the show notes, so if something caught your ear, you can take a closer look. Thanks for listening. That's California governor's race for today. This is a Lantern podcast.